There is nothing wrong in the development. It's the development itself, not in the development of the guidelines. But there does not reflect standards that are not even standards, patterns of patient prescribing of opioids in the real world. The tables that were presented were mistaken in many parts. They were designed for general practitioners or family practitioners, and they are being applied to everyone in the pain field, which was grossly unfair. No place for the patient to go when their pain has not been addressed by a primary care physician, and they are being used by pharmacy benefit managers and insurance carriers as a hammer on what you can and cannot do. And then adding to that, going through, we're going to say, challenges from their PBMs and their insurance carriers for the patient's benefit, whether it be a prior authorization or a peer-to-peer. It has frustrated and made a challenging life of distress to many patients and to many clinicians that are trying to support that patient to have the same activities of daily functioning and the pleasures in life and still be a contributing member in our society.
Another way of looking at that is it doesn't account for the older patient. It really is meant for the new patient, for the primary care physician in their outpatient facility. But as it has been adopted by multiple states as well as CMS, Medicare, Medicaid, basically it mandates the amount of opioids you're allowed to give. The other issue is you have your functional pain patient who's been on opioids for 10 years and he's got a job or she's got a job. They take care of family, they do everything that everybody would do. And then they have a forcible, non-appropriate reduction in their opioids secondary to physician self-control. He's saying, you know, if I don't do this, I'll end up going to jail. So basically, if it's my license or your pain, my license wins. And what happens is these people are getting forcibly decreased to their so-called 90 MEQs of morphine. And the problem is that they become non-functional. And then at the same time, the DEA has, by the end of next year, it'll be almost a 50% decrement in the amount of opioids that will be manufactured in this country. You used to be able to find, per my patients, real pharmaceutical pain meds out in the wild or on the street corner or in the south side of town where nobody goes, okay? They can't do that anymore, so the only thing they're left with are the illegal drugs, heroin, illicit fentanyl. And the other problem is this is being essentially mandated and people are being pushed and prodded in this direction. And as one of my patients asked me, you know, are they trying to thin the herd? Are people actually trying to kill chronic pain patients because the suicide rate is markedly increased? One of the unanticipated consequences, which I'm pretty sure was anticipated by a number of people, when the CDC guidelines came out, physicians left the field. This was their excuse to stop utilizing opioids whatsoever. And many of them just said to their patients, I'm out of here. I'm not going to give anybody an opioid because I love my license, my medical license. It keeps my family fed.
And as a consequence from that, the pain specialists that are board certified, et cetera, are getting an enormous influx of patients from their primary care doc who has cared for them for decades in some cases, who has prescribed those opioids for decades in some cases and saying, I don't prescribe these anymore. You'll have to go to a pain center. So the pain, that patient feels, what did I do? Imagine the guilt. That's a, what did I do? What did I say? I've known you for all these years. This, or, you know, just for these, and because something was rescheduled from Schedule 3 to Schedule 2, the guilt and the anger and frustration is there. We see it daily in our practice from patients that have been bounced out of their office. I'll take care of your cough and your cold, but don't come to me with any pain issues. Just like the management of pain, it's polymodal. And in this case, it's multiple people getting together, focusing on doing something creative. We're talking about the government, state government, local government, and the agencies associated with it. We solve the problem together, and it's getting people who are, I'm going to say, up to their knees in it now, not these peripheral health care providers who pontificate out of the Journal of Compressed Air. So we have to get them all singing one song, one hymn book, and I don't need a new politician running to protect his seat or anything else saying, I'm doing something for the opioid crisis or whatever the case may be. And there's quite a few of them around.
In the early 90s, the insurance companies said, we're just not going to pay for adjunctive pain care. What does that mean? Physical therapy, psychotherapy, occupational therapy. If you've got pain, you got problems, the only tool left in the physician toolbox in the 90s were opioids. In 2000, pain became the fifth vital sign. Again, the only thing doctors had was opioids, but now they had the impromptu of it's the fifth vital sign, you got to take care of it. So use more. Make patients pain-free, and the patients walked in saying, I want to be pain-free. So you had a storm that was unheralded in medicine, okay? It was regulatory, it was insurance-oriented. Nobody talks about that.
It appears that a lot of these decisions were visceral as opposed to cognitive in putting these things together. But once again, as Dr. Jay commented on, they weren't the people that put it together at a paucity of real-world seeing patients every single day for acute pain and chronic pain syndromes that were not abusers. That's the bulk of your population are not the substance abusers, all right? They're happy to go to work and be functioning and be a parent or whatever, or enjoy life without, I'm gonna say, without abusing chemicals. But they're turning to other areas to find a supplement to the opioid that is missing. I don't look at them as abusers, I look at them as victims of healthcare.